Hi, my name is Dagen, and this is my DSARI home energy audit. So we're going to start off with some background, go into the energy audit, do some quantification, and then go into what I learned. So just some background, I live at C&E Lofts, which is a one-bedroom apartment. It has about 720 square feet. I currently live alone. I have central heating and cooling and an electrical stove. This is a very green and historic building. It was built in 1917. It used to be a furniture warehouse. They have different initiatives such as green roofs, composting equipment, and a community garden, and almost all lights that we found when we moved in are low energy light bulbs. So for our Excel energy bill last month, we used 347 kilowatt hours with an average of 4,164 per year. The typical per month for a one bedroom apartment is around 500 to 750, so we're on the lower end of that. And the typical energy use in a one bedroom apartment is about 40 to 50% space heating, 20% water heating, and about 12% for lights and AC. So the devices I measured for this were the Alexa, my air fryer, hair dryer, iMac computer, iPhone charger, light bulb, LED sunset light, and a smart TV. So to document my daily use for the devices, I created a Google spreadsheet and I kept notes with a time log on my phone, rounded to about 15 minutes. I tried to use a timer on my phone, but it became too difficult to track. And then to calculate the average, I used the average function tool, took the sum of the hours for the device divided by the 7 days. So these are the devices I used, and then just some pictures, and then this is the kilowatt hours per month for each one. You can see the highest one here is the smart TV with 15.65, lower end being smaller devices like the iPhone charger and the 9-watt light bulb. All right, so here's the data table I used. For the variable devices, I used the air fryer, which I averaged out to use about 15 to 20 minutes each day, and then my iMac computer. I use about 7.5 hours for different work and school. For the cycle, I charge my phone once a day. So I use the cycle method for that. And I found that it was 0.02 kilowatt hours per total cycle, and I use one a day. So for my kilowatt hours per month total for this, the devices I used, it was about 49.21. This is just another visual to show which devices were used more or less. Yeah, smart TV, iMac, and Air Fryer are some of the bigger ones here. So to calculate the different watts per day for the variable I used to get average watts was the kilowatt hours multiplied by 1,000 to get watt hours, and then dividing it by the average hours. In this example, I used my iMac, which was about 52 watts on average. And then watts per day, you would take the average watts times the average hours used. So I got 390 for that. For the constant, we use the equation of hours on times watts on plus the hours off times watts off, which ended up being 236 plus 285 for 521.79. The cycle was a pretty easy one. It was just kilowatt hours times 1,000, and then you multiply by the average cycles per day, which is one, so I got 200 for that. And then the light was also pretty easy as it was just the watts on times the hours, which was 53.36 in this example. So what did I learn about my devices? The phantom power on the smart TV was a big shocker. When I used the watt meter, I was surprised to see that it was still 14 watts when the TV was turned off. I think this was because of the quick startup feature on the TV, using a steady amount of power. And then another surprise was the more CPU my computer uses, the higher the watt output. So I use a lot of higher CPU software. So I noticed my meter began increasing when I would open these programs. And this is due to the increased motor speed to keep up with the processing. Due to limited access to my HVAC system, my water heater, and the refrigerator outlet, it made it difficult to capture the full picture of my energy usage, as a lot of the higher energy users I wasn't able to monitor or meter in this. So my audits that I did only made up about 14% of our actual usage, as you can see in the pie chart here. So I was shocked to see that my smart TV use is 56% higher than average, and I think this is because of the phantom power from the quick startup setting. My Mac uses 67% higher than average. Just I think just because it's a higher CPU, it's a more powerful computer. And I noticed our hair dryer had a low wattage compared to the average, so I think this helps keep down the kilowatt hour significantly. So some things that I can do to improve are to unplug the TV when not in use. I can save 285 watt hours a day by just unplugging the TV, or at least turning off the quick startup setting, which I already did. And this is a decrease of about 54% for the power used by the TV. Another solution would be to use the air fryer 2 less days a week. By doing that, I would save myself about 620 watt hours per week, and this would decrease the air fryer's energy use by about 28%. Another habit I've been trying to get into is consolidating tabs on my iMac by closing software I'm not using because it will significantly reduce the needed power supply. And EcoFlow states that stronger CPUs consume more energy when performing demanding tasks, like I usually do on it. And then here are my references. Thank you.